werewolves, and vampires, your two favorite uncles are back for yet another 31 Days of Horror. It's our favorite month of the year, and of course, me and this guy are back, kicking it off tonight with the first film from 1968. And we're talking about, of course, Rosemary's Baby, one of the greatest films and horror films of all time. And before we get into it, I am Logan Myers. That's my good mate over there.
I'm Henry Hill, and we are back for another 31 Days of Horror. We couldn't be more excited to dive into tons of horror movies this month. We always have a blast doing these, and what better way to get it started than to start it off with Rosemary's Baby.
It's alive! We're your friends, Rosemary. You witches! Go to hell! I'll kill them before I touch you. Somebody help me! What have you done to him, you maniac?
For the 31 Days of Horror, it's a movie that I've heard so much about all these years, and this was a first time watch for me, believe it or not. Yeah,
Wow.
very first time, and had heard all about it. Mia Farrow, very young back then. Cassavetes, so many stories about this movie, and then Roman Polanski directing. So just like all this hype behind it, I had to see it for myself. And now we're here talking about it.
That's right. This is Roman Polanski's first Hollywood feature, 1968. Another huge horror film came out in the same year. Of course, I'm talking about Romero's Night of the Living Dead. So both these movies really set the stage and was so ahead of its time back in the 1960s. But two films that really stick out all these years later, and this is definitely one, a fun one to revisit during the Halloween season. I haven't rewatched this in a long time, probably 10, 20 years. It's been a while since I've seen it. So rewatching this is fun. Setup is, of course, here we have Mia Farrow and her husband, John. He's a struggling actor. They move up to New York, trying to find acting gigs and things like that. They're trying to have a baby, and they end up meeting all the peculiar neighbors, the nosy neighbors here in this apartment complex. Of course, I'm talking about Ruth Gordon and Sidney Blackmer play Minnie and Roman, and the nosy neighbors from hell essentially drive them a little crazy. Of course, Mia Farrow's character, Rosemary, starts to drive her crazy. And what's really interesting about this film, Ruth Gordon actually won an Oscar for this performance in this film in 1968. Only person in this genre horror to win an Oscar up until 1991, which was Silence of the Lambs. So long time. So it's really fantastic, really I've obviously award-winning performance in this movie, and she's really great.
Yeah, terrific acting in this movie by everybody involved, especially Ruth Gordon. She does a great job of playing like the sympathetic older neighbor who Rosemary confides in and is really close with, moving into this big, lavish place in New York. You can imagine yourself being in this young couple's position back in the day, back in the 60s, hustle and bustle of a big city and having an actor for a husband. It's a very exciting time for Rosemary and Guy. He's been struggling, but they're kind of going for a fresh start here. Things are looking up, and then they move into this place, and underneath the surface, there's some really crazy things happening. And that's what this movie does a great job of. It's like on the surface, everything's really nice. It's this young couple in a big city. You're appreciating all the lavish things in their apartment. They have nice furniture, nice clothes, seemingly have everything. And then they move into this place and meet these older neighbors. And Rosemary starts, seeing some weird things and noticing some weird things about the place that she's in. And eventually, Guy, played by John Cassavetes, plays her husband, knocks her up, and Rosemary gets pregnant. And that just kicks off the movie. And, really that's when you start seeing the horror that is underneath the surface.
Yeah, lots of unsettling imagery in this movie, and this really has to do with Satanists and the devil, and you get a lot of spooky little scenes in the film, and these dreams or visions that Rosemary's having, and having to do with what's going on in this apartment complex. The neighbors, they seem super nice, like your average grandparents or aunts and uncles, normal people. But underneath that is something much darker, as they, find out throughout the course of the film. And the third act is just absolutely bonkers, having to do with all these, neighbors and Satanists, and basically, the husband guy makes a deal with the devil of, raping his wife, Rosemary, having the child, and he gets like an acting gig. So it's really a deal with the devil, and they really dive into that and really scary ass scenes towards the end of the movie.
This isn't a jump scare type of movie. It reminded me more of like an Alfred Hitchcock movie of old, like an updated version of that, where it isn't like scary on the surface, but it's the dread and the Satanism and the symbolism that's you see throughout the movie, and then towards the end when it's finally unveiled what the grand plan is, that's when the horror really scares you and gets to you. But it's more psychological than anything here. And Mia Farrow's performance as Rosemary is great in this. She slowly starts to unravel and lose her mind as the movie goes on. Nobody believes her. She has, a doctor that she sees, and he starts slowly thinking that she's getting nuts because she's trying to tell the doctor about all these things that are happening to her and about her neighbors and what she thinks. And then, finally towards the end, she finds somebody that seemingly believes her, and it ends up that he's also in on it. And that particular character I'm talking about is played by the legendary Charles Grodin, a young Charles Grodin in this movie. I was like, holy cow, that is, the guy from Beethoven that I remember, the dad from Beethoven. And of course, many other movies. He's a great actor, Midnight Run. But Beethoven in the 90s was big for us. So seeing him as a young man, what a good looking guy back in the day too, a young actor in this. And he really is the one that she confides in towards the end. And but I really like this movie. This movie, I can see why it's a classic and why people talk about it. The performances are great. I love the slow build up towards the end. They don't push everything out all at once at you. It's underneath the surface, and it slowly unveils itself. And just the crazy ending just haunted me after the movie was over. It's very unsettling and very, very horrific.
I can't believe you've never seen this movie. This
I
is
know.
the first time watching
Yeah,
it.
I
It goes up
know.
there for the great films and the greatest horror films for sure. Just rewatching this reminded me how wonderful this movie is from start to finish. What a really great atmosphere. The pacing's amazing. It really builds up to the end. Some really top-notch performances here. Mia Farrow, of course, Ruth Gordon, John Cassavetes that played Guy, and he was a true villain in this movie for sure. Cinematography, camera work in this movie. I love the costume set design. Everything works in this movie. It really has a lot of suspense. This is like a supernatural and a psychological thriller, both in one, and it has some really cool supernatural elements to it. And the whole Hail Satan scene still, I'm still thinking about that a few days after watching the film. That's just haunting. A really great performances. Great, keeps you guessing. Great ending, just all around great film, and of course, a great movie to watch during the Halloween season. That being said, I'm going to give Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby a 5 out of 5 Mia Farrow hair pieces.
Yeah, I was blown away by this one. Great first time watch. I can see why it's a classic. Roman Polanski directed the hell out of this one. Awesome performances, and I didn't know as it was going on if she was like if it was gonna be a case where she was just going crazy, or if there, really were Satanists there. And then at the end, when you find out, it's like, holy shit, she was right the whole time. It was all, it was all not just in her head; it was a reality. And yeah, the whole Hail Satan thing too really messed with me. I'm gonna give Rosemary's Baby. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5 John Cassavetes hair pieces.
I want to hear from all you guys out there. What did you like about Rosemary's Baby? What didn't you like about it? What's your favorite movie to watch during the Halloween season? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, check out these wild ghouls on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and our website, sonofhells.com, for the latest, greatest TV, movie news, and horror reviews.
Ooh, it's going to be horrific for this 31 days of horror. We've got so many great reviews lined up. Our list is long. It's ambitious, as it always is. But these two wild boys here, these horror hounds, always deliver, don't we? I mean, when have we not? We've been doing this for years now, and we're back for 2024. And there's a good mix of older movies and TV shows. And then we've got some new movies coming out this month that are just going to kick our asses. Terrifier 3, Smile 2, Apartment 7A, like we mentioned. So we'll definitely be back to review all those. We're thrilled that you guys are with us for another 31 Days of Horror. And until the next 31 Days of Horror video review, I'm Uncle Henry Hill.
And I'm Count Logan Myers signing out until the next one review for 31 Days of Horror. Cheers!